Bienvenidos a todos. Soy Yanis Virvili, soy jefe de prensa aquí en la representación de la Comisión Europea en Madrid, en España. Os quiero dar la bienvenida en nuestra casa, en la Sala de Europa. Es para nosotros un placer acoger un evento aquí en nuestra casa de presentación del trabajo realizado tras estos 3 años de actividad del proyecto Persist. Como ustedes saben, es un proyecto que ya ha conseguido financiación de más de 5 millones de euros por parte del programa marco de la Comisión Europea de Investigación Horizonte 2020. Y de hecho es un proyecto que tiene que ver con una de las prioridades más importantes de la Comisión Europea hoy en día, que es la protección de la salud de los europeos. Creo que hemos visto todos, tras la pandemia de coronavirus, la importancia de actuar todos juntos, los 27 países de la Unión Europea, para afrontar los retos comunes que encontramos en el ámbito de la salud, de la sanidad. Y de hecho creo que la lucha contra el cáncer es uno de los retos más importantes que afrontamos. Sabemos que desafortunadamente en Europa, en la Unión Europea, más de 2,7 millones de casos de cáncer se diagnostican cada año. Sabemos también que si no actuamos hasta 2035, el cáncer se convertirá en la principal causa de muerte en la Unión Europea. Es por ello que en febrero de 2021 la Comisión Europea puso en marcha un plan muy ambicioso de lucha contra el cáncer. Este plan incluye muchas medidas concretas con respecto a toda la trayectoria de la enfermedad, desde la prevención, la detección precoz, cómo mejorar el acceso a diagnóstico y, por supuesto, el tratamiento y la calidad de vida de los pacientes y de los supervivientes de cáncer. Tras esta adopción del plan europeo, muchas acciones se han adoptado ya, muchas medidas concretas. Solamente en enero de este año podría mencionar que la Comisión Europea anunció la creación de una infraestructura digital en toda la Unión Europea que va a conectar las bases de datos de imágenes oncológicas en toda la Unión Europea. Así que tal y como el proyecto Persist, también nosotros en la Comisión estamos usando las nuevas tecnologías y la inteligencia artificial para luchar contra esta enfermedad. Y de ahí nuestro placer de acoger en nuestra casa un proyecto, un evento que tiene que ver con un proyecto que utiliza justamente estas nuevas tecnologías. Así que os doy la bienvenida de nuevo y deseo que tengáis una jornada muy fructífera. Muchas gracias.
Buenos días a todos, bienvenidos. Bonjour, bienvenue en España. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Madrid. I think the most important thing is to talk about Persist project and the results got during these 3 years of research. So I want to introduce you to Alberto Sánchez, coordinator from Persist project from Gradient, Dina Bema, Persist clinical leader from University of Latvia, and Iñaki Galera, Persist exploitation leader from Dedalus.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Ioannis. Thank you, Paula, for welcoming us in this venue. Thanks also to the representation of the European Commission in Spain for hosting this event, hosting us. Thank you very much. And also thank you to the audience, both in person and online, for taking part and joining us in the presentation in this final event of the project Persist. My name is Alberto Sánchez. I'm the head of eHealth at Gradient, a technology center located in Vigo, in Spain. We have been the coordinators of the Persist project. So, how can I use this? Okay. I would like today to present which is the rationale behind Persist, which are the challenges that is addressing, the proposal that we have made in the project in order to overcome these challenges and reach the objectives that we posed at the beginning of the project. I would like to start with some numbers regarding, Ioannis already mentioned, every year we are diagnosing more and more cases of cancer. Luckily, and this is the good news, the survival rate is increasing as well, thanks to the better therapeutic and diagnostic tools that we have in place and that are being developed. And this is good news, but it's also putting pressure on the healthcare systems, because the segment of population that is a cancer survivor is increasing as well, and it's a segment of the population very heterogeneous and with very specific needs. So the system is not ready and is having this pressure. In order to tackle this situation, to address this challenge, we created the PERSIST Consortium more than 3 years ago, in which companies, research organizations, hospitals, patients associations, and also universities have joined their efforts. 13 organizations from 10 countries in Europe have joined their efforts in order to build a solution and make a proposal in order to tackle the challenges. The first activity and which has driven the development of PERSIST, of the whole project, have been the challenges that we identified, both for the professionals and for the healthcare system, and also for patients. This was our main focus. In particular, for professionals, we identify 3 main challenges: the lack of coordination between different care levels, specifically between the specialized care, where the knowledge and the capabilities to manage these patients is found, and primary care level, that is often the point of contact for cancer survivors and the primary point of contact with the healthcare system, who follow them up more closely. Then we identify also the lack of individualized care plans for each specific patient. There are some guidelines, some references, some protocols for cancer survivors, but oriented to a specific type of cancer, but not oriented specifically to each patient. And there are patients who have a huge complexity and require very specific care strategies and actions. And finally, the last challenge is the lack of specialists. We have very good oncologists in Europe, but they are not enough in numbers, because they cannot manage this growing segment of the population and this wave of cancer survivors that we are observing. Then for patients, we also identify some challenges, mainly toxicity, the toxicity of the treatments that they have undergone. Also the impact in their lifestyle that the disease have had on them, that they cannot recover, they cannot get back, for instance, to the labor market. And finally, the psychological stress that they are undergoing, mainly because they have fear to recurrence, and also because of the body changes that they have undergone in some cases, depending on the type of cancer. The model that we propose in PERSIST is focusing 3 pillars. First of all, data capture from different sources, the ingestion of data from electronic health records, also from patients through a mHealth application that we have developed that allows them to collect objective data about their life habits and health through a smartband that is integrated in the mHealth application. Also, the application allows to collect PREMs and PROMs, patient-reported experiences and patient-reported outcomes that they capture through some questionnaires. And finally, as well, there's some video recordings that they can generate by answering questions that a conversational agent is generating for them. And the goal of these videos is try to assess which is their emotional status. Also, we incorporated data from liquid biopsy, mainly targeting CTCs, circulating tumor cells, which is a biomarker that can be useful in order to understand which is the prognosis and which is the evolution of metastasis, of recurrence, in this case, for cancer survivors. The second pillar is oriented to intelligence. We built an artificial intelligence platform based on the HL7 FHIR standard that has enabled the ingestion of this and homogenization, standardization of data from these different data sources, and also the exploitation of this data by different artificial intelligence models. Namely, we have 4 main artificial intelligence models. One of them, which is performing sentiment analysis, analyzing these video recordings that they are capturing, the patients are capturing, in order to find signs and patterns of depression in the speech and in the gestures from the video. So we are performing also video analytics. Then another model, a deep learning model, that is automating the detection of CTCs, of circulating tumor cells, in the images coming from liquid biopsies, and this has been developed by Gradian. Then we have another artificial intelligence models that is able to classify the patients and is able to predict which are the trajectories of the patients for specific variables and specific outcomes, health-related outcomes. And also, finally, artificial intelligence model that is able to predict which is the risk for recurrence in 5 years for cancer survivors, both for breast cancer and colorectal cancer survivors. And finally, we have the last pillar, which is the decision support. We have developed a mClinician, an application which is dedicated to professionals, where they can observe the trends of the patients, also get alerts thanks to an inference engine, and react and tailor the care strategy for each specific patient. We have validated the technology and the proposal, the care model, in 4 hospitals in Latvia, Spain, Slovenia, and Belgium, with 160 patients, colorectal cancer survivors and breast cancer survivors, and with 2 subgroups, chemotherapy and non-chemotherapy. And I have included here a chronogram, and the point here and the main message is that the 2 phases that we have used to engage with patients. In the first phase, which was actually the longer, we were working with them in order to co-create the technology, focusing on usability and user experience. And as well, we were capturing data in order to train the artificial intelligence model that we were proposing. And once the technology was ready, the platform was ready, we launched the full clinical validation that has happened in the last 6 months. Actually, we are still closing it, and it will be finished by the end of February. Regarding the objectives, I wanted to reflect which were the objectives of the project and how we have achieved them. Well, the first objective was to offer a robust, scalable, and flexible big data platform that enabled data ingestion and also the exploitation of data by different artificial intelligence models. We have achieved it by implementing the FHIR server and also some FHIR REST APIs that allow not only the exploitation of data by the artificial intelligence model that we have developed, but it could be exploited by any other. So this is the point of scalability, that it allows the ingestion from any source and the exploitation by any model. Then we have developed a protocol for the extraction of data coming from electronic health records from the hospitals in order to allow this secondary use. And actually, we have performed this secondary use in order to train our models. And finally, the creation of this big data and artificial intelligence ecosystem that could bring new innovations, new models, and that could be adapted to any other, not only to cancer survivors, for breast cancer survivors and colorectal cancer survivors, but to any other application related to healthcare or cancer specifically. The second objective was to develop a standard mechanism for collecting data from new sources. So we had the data from electronic health record, and that's good because we could train our models and it was valuable, but we wanted to generate new data, and data that is not used currently in the assessment of cancer survivors. We included the mHealth application that is collecting objective data and also subjective data from the patient-reported outcomes and patient-reported experiences. Then we built a multimodal sensing network using artificial intelligence, supporting the development of new biomarkers, where it's not a new biomarker, but a new application of that biomarker, the automation of the obtention of this biomarker in the case of the CTCs, and the sentiment analysis in the case of the video recordings that I mentioned before. Then we also included the artificial intelligence models that are able to predict which will be the trajectory of the patient and the risk of the patient, and this is valuable information that the physicians can use to take the best decisions. The third objective was to generate knowledge about the association between the lifestyle, well-being, and the health outcomes, and we have, in order to support this high-quality provision of care to cancer survivors, we have achieved it by means of the generation of a knowledge base, the development of an inference engine that is able to assess the risk of a specific patient, support clinical decision, and also generate alerts when one patient is in risk. And finally, the development of an mClinician app that is the interface, the main interface for professionals, and empowers them with all the data, all the information they need in order to improve the care of cancer survivors. The fourth objective was to design, develop, and evaluate PERSIST, taking into account every stakeholder. We wanted to do it from the very beginning. So we started with a qualitative research process in which we were reviewing literature, we were working in surveys with key stakeholders, including professionals, patients, relatives, key stakeholders, also considering the cancer beating plan of the European Commission. And we were analyzing different cases, performing case study in different hospitals in Europe, not only the 4 hospitals that are participating, but other hospitals as well, in order to find which were the success factors in the treatment of cancer survivors. And finally, we followed this co-creation and co-creation process and iterative evaluation of the technology with professionals and patients in order to adapt and promote the adherence, promote the acceptability of the technology during the whole study. Finally, the 5th objective was to promote and provide to different public targets a better understanding of how the project outcomes and the impact that the outcomes can have in the European society. So we are working in the rising of awareness, the visibility of the project through social media, through our web page, newsletter, working with press as well, press conferences. We had some dissemination events, different conferences and workshops with an audience of more than 5,000 people. We have produced scientific evidence also in papers, in journals, more than 35 publications in the whole project. The name is Science is there, but we haven't published in Science, so don't panic, but in some journals which are important and relevant. And finally, we have been working also on the exploitation of the results. We don't want PERSIST just to be a research project that stays as it is now. We want to guarantee the sustainability, the exploitation of the results. Iñaki will tell us a little bit more later, but this is the orientation of PERSIST, the transfer of technology and the real impact in the European society and in the scope of cancer survivorship. And which is the PERSIST added value? I want to conclude with that. Well, mainly a better understanding of cancer survivorship. We need to raise awareness of this situation because there are more and more people in this situation and they need to be treated in an appropriate way. Also, it can be a reference and establish a guideline for future projects, for the making of politics, for the decision making. Also, development and validation of innovative technologies that were in low TRLs, and we have achieved an increment in these TRLs, and they are closing to becoming a reality and being used in the clinical practice. The patient engagement and empowerment, we have been talking about the impact and the importance of this element, and also the innovative and ambitious ecosystem that we have built with clinical partners, with large and small companies, academia, research centers, and this has enabled us to reach some objectives and some results that wouldn't have been possible individually. So I would like to highlight that, and the big effort, the great work that the consortium has done, and that makes us as coordinators really proud. So. And finally, well, this orientation to business that I think is a key element in PERSIST, and this willingness to really have an impact in the European society and in the European economy with these new business models. So that's all from my side. Now I will give the floor to Dina Vema from the University of Latvia. She has been the clinical leader of PERSIST in the project. So please, Dina, the floor is yours.
As he was saying, my name is Dina, and I'm from University of Latvia, Institute of Clinical and Preventive Medicine. And I'm going to explain some things about results. So these are our 4 clinical partners in 4 countries: Belgium, Spain, Latvia, and Slovenia, and I would like to take an opportunity to thank them all for participation in this clinical study. And so together, all of 4 hospitals, we needed to find the patients who are ready to participate in the clinical trial. We have this clinical protocol, and we are looking for the breast and colorectal cancer survivors in each country. So we made some inclusion and exclusion criteria, and first of all, we needed people from 80 to 75 years old with stable clinical situation and without recurrence after the cancer treatment. And their life expectancy was rated as good for more than 2 years, and they were able to understand the instructions, and they have enough technology literacy. So if the patient were dependent from other people, we didn't include him in the trial. So, and patient had to follow up all the procedures, so he had to really understand what we are going to do. This is the, I hope you can see, the numbers we got in the clinical trial. Altogether, we have 166 patients with mean age 55 years. 85 of them were breast cancer survivors, 81 colorectal, and most of them were female, 129, and 37 were male. This is because of the cancer incidence between the males in breast cancer group. So, in the course of the clinical trials, as this process was really co-creation, and we have to do lots of work with the patients and to see how to elaborate the mHealth app and etc. Some of them lose the patients and they withdraw the clinical trial. So there's also the numbers for withdrawal. There's 41 people who left the trial. Especially it was at the beginning, so it was really hard for them to grasp all the instructions and follow them. But some of them said they just realized that it's taking so much time, so they can't participate, they have some issues in personal life, etc. So there were different reasons for patients leaving the trial. But still we have lots of patients still participating, and these are some of the results we have started to analyze. For example, physical activity of the patients, they are wearing the bracelet, and the bracelet transfers the data to mHealth app, and we can see it as an activity for 7 days, 30 days, or 3 months in a row. And then when we look at the data, we see that in the median number of steps a day they are taking, it's around 7,000. But most of them are not walking that much. Altogether, 20% is just walking 2,000 steps a day, but those who are walking like 9,000 steps a day, they are 38%, and then are just about 0.73% of patients who are walking like 19,000 steps a day. And from this graph, you can see an interesting result that we can compare the patients between, like in countries, and in Belgium, the patients are walking less a day than in, for example, UKCM, that's in Slovenia. That's interesting thing that we just noticed in our results. In those who were super workers and like walked really much, around 20,000 steps a day, 3% of them were in Spain. And yeah, that's really impressive data. Then we have, then the patients in the mHealth app had an opportunity to mark their emotions. This under, if you can see, how are you feeling? Then they have the whole list of emotions, starting from joy and ending with the anger, etc. And then there's interesting thing that we have 40% of all the emotions were marked joy. They choose to pick the joy, and they said that they feel joy, like almost 91% of their joy is like really, they were really happy. I don't know whether the participation in the study made them feel this or something like this, but except also the Belgian patients, they felt less joy, but still 86 is really good. If you start from 1 to 100, it's better than 50. So maybe that's because of the less walking. They have to walk more. This is one thing. Then they had the scale of good, bad. How do I feel, whether bad or good? And they can slide this thing on the scale. But this showed that even they are feeling the joy, still they do not feel that good. That can be understandable as they are going through a difficult situation in their life. And then there's even not so good results in Latvia and in Spain. Those patients are saying they're feeling only 21 on scale from 1 to 100%. So This is their actual feeling. Of course, they can be happy, but they are not feeling good. And then this interesting result is about the video diary recordings. We had the patients were asked to make video diaries, like 3 minutes long. Better if they do this 2 to 3 times a week, but not all of them did this because we found out that they do not like to take video diary recordings. And all of them like evaluated this on 5 if we make if we look at the data. And this is not a good thing, so they chose not to make the video diaries. And our patients from Latvia, they even gave 2.5 points. So they really avoided doing this. And so in that way, we couldn't analyze their data further because the function of the video diary recording was that artificial intelligence look for the marks of depression. So, but this is something that people avoided to do in our clinical study. And then we have user acceptance of mHealth app. This is patients evaluating whether they like the app or not. And if we see all the data together, if we do the levels, then if we combine acceptable to good and excellent usability, those two together, this means this is good. We combine them together, it's 44%. So this is okay for co-creation activities we have done. But still 80% have not changed their mind from the middle of the study, and they think that system is experiencing some usability issues. But it's understandable, we have to work more. And then there's, in this questionnaire was a question, I found the system very cumbersome, awkward to use, and they have to reply from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And then there's 3 measurements at the beginning of the study, at the middle, and at the end. And we can see that almost all of the patients in the final evaluation, they thought that the system is easier to use. There wasn't this cumbersome, awkward moment. So they are getting used to the system, except the patients from Slovenia in this case. This is what we can see. But this was the part of the patients. And then, of course, we have the other part of the clinicians. Clinicians have their own app and their own web version of the mClinician system. And then there's things getting even more complicated because they have to get the data about the patient health records, etc., into the mClinician web version. And then they can see the overview of each patient in the mClinician app. And this is why probably most of them thought that the system is not easy to use, and it's experiencing some usability issues because they have to do a lot of work with the data. But still, 20% of all consider them acceptable to good. And this data shows us that maybe we can split the mClinician web version functions and mClinician app functions between 2 people. So like the data could be automatized and taken care of different specialists, and the clinician have free hands just looking at the patient's data. But still, if we are asking the patients, the clinicians, whether the system is very cumbersome, awkward to use, we can see that they are getting used to it. And from the beginning, they give higher points, and later they're giving the lower points, except in the Slovenia case. So these were some of the data from our study. If you have any questions, then maybe you can ask them. I don't know whether I have the opportunity to say this, but this is something we see, and we keep looking at the data, and we see what comes out of it at the end. Yep. Thank you. I have to call Iñaki. Yeah, he will continue.
Good morning. Do you hear me? Thank you. My name is Iñaki Galera. I work for Dedalus in the business development area. In my role in Dedalus, in the PERSIST project, has been to develop and coach other consortium members on creating the exploitation plan, the business plan, in other words. I don't know if this works. It's another way. Just here you go. So in the PERSIST project, there was a work package called dissemination, communication, and also exploitation, with the purpose to develop a business plan to exploit. We usually say in the healthcare sector, in the software healthcare sector, that whatever we do has to be patient-centric. So in this case, I personally like to thank and welcome the patients that have participated in this study, in this project, because without you, it wouldn't be impossible to develop this. And for us, or at least for myself, if we could do anything to make your lives better with a piece of code or whatever, we feel really, glad to help you, and not only to you that are present here, but any other cancer survivor that maybe listen to this, or in any other country that is a fight. You are fighting every day. If we can help you to do something, we feel really great. So thank you for your attendance. And so this is not about producing a technology platform or a technology item. That's the idea we had at the beginning. But as we develop the project, we came up with certain ideas, certain what we call exploitable results, certain products that we could explore. Some of them we could explore from a commercial point of view, others from academic point of view, whatever. But at the end of the day, this project has demonstrated that we could develop some ideas that could be commercialized individually and also as an entire platform. And these are the results that I'm presenting here. This is the result that the consortium has produced. The first one is the entire solution that, between Alberto has explained, the three different pillars, the complete solution for cancer survivors, right? The second is a chatbot, a specific chatbot that could be commercialized individually also. The third is the second opinion, that someone could ask for a second opinion for clinicians and patients as well. The fourth result, a big data platform that not only could be used for this case, cancer survivors, but also for any other pathology in the market. The fifth is highlighted in blue. That means it comes from academic. So from a commercial point of view, we are not thinking about to exploit, but it's a result that could be commercialized for a company, right? Not for a university in this case, which is a multimodal depression analysis framework that has been used in the clinical validation, in the clinical study that Gina has explained before. The XIS is multilingual end-to-end conversational system that has been used also in the clinical validation, quite useful for for understanding how patients feel, how they understand their situation. The seventh is a clinical decision support system, mainly focused in this case, for clinicians that also could be commercialized independently, right? And more items that that we identify that could be commercialized. One thing that is from a pure technical point of view, but it's a roadblock to commercialize the different solution, is the data ingestion tool. Wherever we go, if we want to implement PERSIST, we want to implement this solution to a hospital, we do have to integrate this solution. And that integration is usually a nightmare. Is never easy, right? So these tools will help us to implement the solution wherever we go, right? The number 9 is the circulating tumor cell count, which Alberto has mentioned earlier, and could be commercialized independently, and that's the purpose, so that's the aim. And certainly it's a very innovative idea, a very innovative product, very innovative solution that has a specific business plan on its own. Number 10 is a artificial intelligence model for recurrence early prediction, just to identify whether a patient could, suffer the illness, the disease in a certain period of time, right? Very useful once it's trained and once is fed with the right data. Number 11 is the mobile application that Dean has showed some screenshots, for patients to interact with clinicians, right? And something that we shared is that patients, and correct me if I'm mistaken, feel that they could contact with clinicians very easy, very often, right? So it's a very good value for the product. And one product that we identified that is not commercialized, cannot be commercialized, but certainly is a useful solution, is a methodology to co-create clinical protocols. And it's not a technical product, but certainly it's a methodology that could be applied to any other hospital if we want to, right? And finally, we've analyzed, we developed artificial intelligence solution to analyze patient trajectory, and that's very useful looking forward, to at least to predict whether a patient will suffer specific diseases or not. So all in all, this at the beginning of the project, we thought we are producing just one solution, the first one, the complete platform. But as we went through, we identified we could do something more. And these are the 13 items that we identified, results. And this is a very quick explanation about the maturity model, the maturity assessment of these solutions. So how mature they are? Well, as you can see from the right-hand side, there are 2 items that could be identified in red. So they are, let's say, ready to be commercialized after this project. One is the chatbot, and the other one is the big data platform. Whereas the rest of the products identified as we identify are after the research experience, the research activities, and therefore they need some more time to get more mature. And that's the feedback we collected from patients that having those tools, those items more mature, that would be better for commercializing. So there is also another roadblock to commercialize, and that is the certification, medical certification. Some results and products are identified as medical devices, and therefore they have to go through a specific certification. That means time, a lot of work, a lot of time just to get those items certified. And very quickly, this is how we see those products in the future. In a comparison of exploitation time frame, and also a type of partnership. So we can see that exploitation result number 4, which is the big data platform, could be commercialized by individually, right? In this case, it could be Dedalus in a short period of time, in less than 1 year. Whereas the entire solution, ER1, with the cancer survivorship solution, it will require more time, it will require more consortium members to be commercialized, right? So, and the rest of the results are, let's say, in the middle, right? So some of them, they think they need more time, they will go along. Other results, they will need more time, plus some more consortium members, but not too many, between 2 and 4. So all in all, the message I want to transmit is, after this project, which has been focused mainly on research, we are in a really good position to commercialize if we want to, with overcoming roadblocks and implementing the specific business plans. Right? I will go very quickly. For the entire solution, the exploitable result number 1, which is the cancer survivorship solution, we've done a specific and thorough market analysis, identifying competitors, and identifying who could be the threats are in the market, and basically what we can say is there are not many commercial solutions as complete as Persists. So there are some solutions in some universities, right? but as complete as Persist in the market, there are not many, if any at all, right? So there are some products that complete with the specific components of Persist, but with the entire breadth and depth of Persist, we can say there are not too many, right? However, there are threats in the market. I mean, in the market that large companies, like Amazon, Google, or we hear recently ChatGPT, right? Could easily replace, easily in quotes, right? Could really be a competitors of Persist. Or also from another side, big pharmas or large digital health companies could also be a threat for Persist. So what I'm saying is, in order to define the business plan, we did a detailed analysis of the market in order to identify the different where we are and what are our competitors, right? And this is something that is expressed also as a conclusion in the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which I'm not going to go in detail, but because I've already said something, we have some strengths, as we said, coming specifically from patients. They feel like the clinicians take care of them. However, from an internal point of view, we need some more time to get the solution, the technical solution, more mature. And coming from external situation, there are some threats, right, coming from large company, like big tech giants. But also there are some good opportunities, because Persist not only could be focused on breast and colorectal cancer survivors, it could be focused on any other cancer survivors or even any other disease. So that's one of the opportunities that lies ahead of us. Right, and about the business opportunity, the size, well, this is a study we did. We think there is a $342 billion opportunity in Europe in the coming years, in the coming 7 years. But again, this is a digital health market competition, so it's huge, right? And Persist is competing in a specific part of that market, a specific part of that cake, let's put it that way, right? And we did also this exercise in order to identify how to commercialize the solution, which basically our customers are mainly focused on hospitals, right? Oncologists in this case, right? Even though the decision makers could be other type of professionals within hospitals, but generally speaking, that's the target we're going after, right? From a commercial revenue stream, so commercialization point of view, it's very difficult to define. Basically, we are open on defining many different ways to commercialize this solution. Could be license fee, could be pay-per-use, could be specific ad hoc services based on consulting services, all or not. But basically, let's think that when we think about commercializing this solution, we have to have in mind that all partners of the consortium should be involved. That means that many different parts, many different components should be, fit together in order to be commercialized. And finally, the conclusions about a commercial approach is, as I said, initially we had in mind just one product, one solution to commercialize, but we identified that, hey, we could do more, we could do better, right? We identified like 13, right? Commercialize or not commercialize, but at least to exploit from a commercial point of view or not, right? Even though it's a mature solution, the solution has been, improved, but it requires further, maturity effort. As I said, further tests that are required. So, and that's the feedback we collected from the clinical validation study. Clinicians, as Berta said, need more training. It's a new tool. It's a new way to interact with patients. They need more training. It could be focused on specific care plans. In this case, colorectal and breast cancer, but could also be applicable to other kind of treatments, right? Data extraction and ingestion, we say we should improve, but the main point here is a roadblock, getting to a hospital and getting this solution implemented, and that integration requires time, requires effort, and each hospital is unique from that point of view. Therefore, we need to make that, that effort. We think, finally, that there is a huge potential market ahead of us. So, and we just come out from a meeting this morning where, specific modules or specific results could be commercialized independently, making a really good impact PERSIST project in the society. And this is all from my side. Thank you very much for your attendance, and thank you for your attendance as well. Thank you.
Hello, dear participants of the PERSIST event. First of all, I wanted to say that I am very sorry that I cannot be with you in person this morning for this important discussion, but unfortunately a shadows meeting here in the European Parliament got in the way. Nevertheless, I wanted to take this opportunity to say a few words delivered to you, digitally. In a way that is very fitting, since the topic of today's event is about how digital technology can help fight cancer. This will not surprise you, but the medical landscape is rapidly changing. Medical innovation has always been important for human development, and the digitalization of the field has huge potential for patients, professionals, and society overall. However, digital technologies also come with significant risks which need to be addressed through legislation. Currently, I see two main initiatives that I would like to highlight here. First, the AI Act will set out the obligations that high-risk AI applications need to comply with in order to enter the European market, particularly in a field like healthcare, which is so closely linked to our personal well-being. I cannot overstate how important this is. People need to be able to trust AI algorithms used to facilitate the treatment, and the AI Act is the foundation for that trust. Firstly, we need to ensure human oversight of critical health decisions at all times. Secondly, AI-based systems need to be neutral and fair in order to ensure a non-biased and non-discriminatory outcome. And finally, developers of these systems have to make sure that the consumers are informed in an easily understandable, transparent way about what the system does and why it takes a certain decision or carries out a certain action. In the separate and just released Directive on AI Liability, we need to make clear that those who have been subject to a mistake by an AI are empowered to take these mistakes to court and can hold those responsible accountable. The second legal act we are currently discussing in the European Parliament is the European Health Data Space. With the European Health Data Space, the Commission presented a crucial, forward-looking proposal. But one thing is clear: we will only be able to overcome major health challenges of our time together. Viruses, as well as other diseases and health threats, do not stop at national borders. The new proposal puts the exchange of data for patient care as well for research and development purposes in Europe on a new footing. For patients, this means direct control over the digital health data and a possibility to share it with physicians throughout the European Union. For example, it will be easier to get help quickly in the event of an accident while on vacation. Moreover, better data collection and exchange practices bring an enormous potential for the research and development of new drugs and therapies, especially for rare diseases for which there is often not enough data available in individual member states. As healthcare goes digital, data protection and data security are of the highest importance. Patients must be able to fully trust the digital exchange of data. Highly sensitive personal health data must not end up in the wrong hands. We need to ensure that the final agreement on the EHDS meets these high requirements. If we look across the channel to the United Kingdom, we are already seeing horrible examples of the NHS losing control over the patient data they shared with companies. This is something we cannot let happen in the European Union. For both these proposals, AI and EHDS, we will in the end need a solution that both empowers research and fight against terrible diseases like cancer while safeguarding our rights as citizens. The digitization of healthcare and research can only be successful if all citizens are able to fully trust these new technologies. I believe balancing the potential and the risk of the digitization of healthcare will be one of the most critical challenges in the coming months and years for us here in the Parliament, and I am looking forward to exchanging on this important topic with many of you in the future. For now, I wish you a very successful event, and until next time, hopefully in person.
Welcome again. I'm here again with you. Thank you, Timo Wolken, member of the European Parliament, for your words. And I think it's the moment for one of the most interesting topics in the morning, the symposium about PERSIST and its impact in cancer survivorship. So I would like to welcome Dina Vema and Ilona Aleksandrovica, I don't know if I spell it properly, from University of Latvia, Marcela Chavez from Liège University Hospital, and Ariadna Mato from Fundación Biomédica Galicia Sur.
Okay, welcome everyone and thank you for being here. I would like to thank you, the patients, for being here, and because, as our partner said before, without them this project wouldn't be possible. I don't know if you have some words to say. Okay, so some of the objectives of this project when it comes to our patients and caregivings were increase self-efficacy of the patients, reduce the risk of cancer recurrence, reduce psychological stress, increase effectiveness in cancer treatment and follow-up, improve the health and well-being of the patients, and well, that's all. So I don't know if you would like to say something before I start asking patients.
Well, from my side, you can hear me? Yeah. From my side, so I'm representing the Liège University Hospital. This hospital was very honored to participate in PERSIST, and we thank the Commission and the consortium, the coordinator, for the opportunity that was given to 40 patients of Belgium to help to improve their physical and mental conditions. So from my side, I invited 3 patients to tell us about their impressions during this study, and I hope you will hear them in a couple of minutes. You guys, you have something to say? No?
Hello, my name is Ilona, and we have we work together with the Riga East University Hospital, and from there we invited to participate in this project patient, and today we have 2 patients from Latvia, from each of the representing of each of the disease, and so we're gonna have discussion with them today.
So the patients, do you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, I am Lasma Nikolaison. I'm from Latvia. At the beginning, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this project and for invitation to participate also in this event. It's an honor to be here for me. And yeah, I am a colorectal patient and I will represent this part of the disease in Latvian group. And I will also introduce you with my colleague from Latvia, Victoria. I will help her with the translation. I guess she will explain her thoughts in Latvian and I will try to translate them in English that they would be understandable for everyone. Yep. And then I can give you the microphone to the other part of the patients.
Hello, my name is Pascal Martin. I speak very well English and Marcella translate to me. Voilà. Bon, ben, voilà, mais
Oui. Mais on va
les personnes qui m'accompagnent sont Sophie et Chantal.
Moi, c'est Chantal Antunia. Voilà, j'ai participé à Persist parce que les données qui pouvaient me servir pour tout ce qui était sportif et tout ça m'intéressait. Et mon suivi de santé. À la base, je suis prof de gym, donc tout ça m'intéresse déjà à l'avance. Donc, je suis peut-être plus intéressée que certains autres patients.
Yeah, so Madame Antuna, she participated in Persist because she was very interested in the data related to sport because she's a sport teacher. So, and then she wanted to really to see if this implies something in her health care, and this was the main reason why she participated, and that is why she was working a lot. Because this I know, she didn't say it, but I know it.
Voilà, moi, si j'ai accepté de participer au projet, c'est parce qu'au départ, je suis infirmière et donc, voilà, ça a été quand même une épreuve dans ma vie de me retrouver de l'autre côté. Et je trouve que c'était important aussi de pouvoir faire avancer la recherche et que de plus en plus, on parle du patient, de sa façon de s'impliquer dans les soins et je trouvais que le projet correspondait bien à ça.
Okay.
Chantal dit comme moi.
Yeah, Mrs. Martin said that she's a nurse actually, and then in this time she crossed the wall to the other side, so she's a patient for Persist, and she wanted to help patients in her situation to improve the situation and to improve also science. And that's it, I think, more or less, yeah. And also she said that because we are talking more and more about patient-centric solutions, she wanted also to participate in one of these. So we can begin perhaps with other kind of questions.
Okay, so I think the first question is obvious. Do you feel that the objectives proposed for this Persist system for you were fulfilled? I mean, when it comes to increase self-efficacy or reduce psychological stress, do you feel more accompanied during the follow-up?
Je vais traduire peut-être en français. Déjà, est-ce que vous avez l'impression que Persist a vraiment réussi à vos attentes? Est-ce que vous sentez que vous avez amélioré votre état de santé physique et mental?
Moi, je crois que ça m'a permis d'objectiver effectivement qu'il y avait une stabilisation quand, voilà, tous les jours, on téléchargeait les paramètres. Et ça m'a, oui.
Moi, je crois qu'il faut déjà être motivé au départ, parce que quelqu'un qui ne l'est pas, je crois qu'il ne va pas persister dans Persist. Donc, il ne va pas faire le suivi et regarder ses paramètres si ça ne l'intéresse pas au départ.
Okay. So, Mrs. Martin says that she liked to see really the parameters every day, so it allows her to see those parameters. And this for her was important. But Mrs. Mantuna says that you need really to be motivated to participate in PERSIST, because if you were not motivated, then you drop out of very quickly from the project, because it was like active participation to see all the time these parameters. Mais vous avez senti que vous avez quelque part amélioré votre état de santé, votre état.
C'est un incitant à faire, par exemple, les pas. C'est un incitant à faire du sport. Quand on voit qu'on a fait que 3000 pas sur la journée, ben on se dit t'as pas marché assez, ma fille, il faut un peu te remuer. Donc voilà.
Okay.
Donc, oui, pour certains aspects, ça nous pousse à faire certaines choses, oui.
Quand on se pose la question sur les émotions, c'est un moment, moi j'envoyais mes données tous les soirs, et donc c'était un moment où je m'arrêtais pour me dire comment est-ce que je me sens aujourd'hui. Finalement, c'était bien, c'était moins bien, voilà.
So from one side, it helps patients to walk. This is something that they could see. So when they were not walking enough, then they thought that next day they need to walk a little bit more. But also regarding emotions, this was something important, because at one moment, for instance, for Mrs. Martin, she could sit in the evening, late in the evening, and think how I felt this day. And this was an important moment for her during the day.
Ça nous aide à prendre du temps et à se recentrer sur soi et prendre du temps pour soi.
Okay.
Et ne pas toujours faire ce qu'on doit faire et faire attention à nous.
Yeah. So they say that the answer is yes, because PERSIST helps them to not to do what they have to do, but to take care of themselves more than to take action during the days for other things.
Get up. Okay, I will stay seated. Yeah, in general, I can say that I'm satisfied with using this app, because it helped me to monitor my daily activity and follow up my progress or regress in my health state, or also it could help to recognize some problems and maybe formulate questions to the doctors if I see that, for example, in my case, I noticed that I have pretty low blood pressure, which I didn't have before, and this app made me to question this issue and to talk about with my doctor. And also, maybe I would like to have larger scale to see my activity, to see my sleep, maybe not only in 1 week distance, but maybe longer, like for a month, or I could see whole together. So, yeah, and also this reflective aspect that I should stop in my daily rush and think about how I feel. That's also important, actually, because if I shouldn't talk about my feelings, about my emotions, probably I would live day by day, and maybe in weekend I would stop and think about myself. But this made me to do it every day, and that's also important and valuable. And Victoria?
Tā, es izmantoju pielikumu gandrīz 24 mēnešus.
Yep, she says that she has used this application for almost 24 months.
Sākumā garastāvoklis uzlabojas, it kā mani vēroja un jūtas drošībā.
And she says that at the beginning her mood got better and better, and she felt that some outside power, somebody else is watching her, following her, and she felt more safe like that.
Pēc tam man saka, pietrūks konsultācijas ar ārstu. Varu tu kaut vai vienu reizi 3 mēnešus, bet ne onkologu, bet ar psihologu.
Yeah.
Vari ar online.
Yeah, and she says that later she felt the lack of consultations with the doctor. She would like to have at least one consultation in 3 months, which could be also online, but that these consultations wouldn't be with oncologists, but for example, in her case, with psychologists would be important.
Pateicoties programmai un anketēšanai, es atcerējos arī par fiziskam vingrinājumiem, 5000 soliem un pareizu ēšanu, pievērst uzmanību arī savam garastāvoklim. Ja dusmojos, jautāju sev, kādas manas robežas ir paktāptās, kāda vajadzība pēc tā.
Yeah, and because of the program and questionnaire, she remembered about physical activities, about that she has to make those 5,000 steps every day, how to eat correctly. She paid attention to her mood, and if she was angry, she questioned herself why it is like that and which boundaries are crossed.
Dotu pielikumu uzskatu par ļoti labu padomātu, bet personīgi man pietrūka jautājumi dienas grāmatā. Es nesaprotu, par ko runāt.
Yeah, she says that the application is very well, and she feels that people have thought a lot about to improve it, but personally she felt the lack of questions in diaries because it was hard to understand what to talk about. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. You were really explaining things. But for diaries, it was like just a recording of whatever you want. Yeah, I can understand that can be confusing, that even you don't have to say anything specific, just how the day went, etc. Because it's not like we need some answers from diaries. It's from the face, muscle, and that kind of features for analyzing. Yeah, but you mentioned about your emotions too, and you also too. So I haven't looked in the data and specifically don't know whether you were those people who marked joy, but did you do this? And did you do this every day?
Actually, I have an opinion about this because I felt a bit strange about these emotions, because emotions usually is like, the mood is like a composition of emotions, and joy was, I think, the only one which was really positive, and there were a lot of emotions which were more or less negative, and that it wouldn't look so pessimistic. You had to put joy, but maybe had also some negative emotion as well, that it would show the real situation. And maybe, I guess that's the reason why the joy is so much, but I guess you cannot look to the joy like the only emotion. It's composition of all of them, and mood is swinging.
Yeah, of course the mood is swinging, yeah.
So I'm glad to see that Persist has helped you, but I would like to ask another question then. What was the most uncomfortable thing to use the system, or what will you change or would like to see different, or...
Donc voilà, on vous pose la question maintenant peut-être de l'autre côté. Quel a été l'aspect le plus inconfortable, le plus difficile, le plus désagréable de l'application de Persist que vous avez utilisée pendant presque 2 ans? So, yeah.
Elle devrait être interactive, c'est-à-dire on devrait nous poser des questions plutôt que d'être là, on ne sait pas quoi dire. Donc,
okay,
voilà.
So this is the answer proof what it has been shown in the presentation earlier. So the video is the most uncomfortable task to do during this project for all the patients, because they think that the video should be more interactive. So not only to record yourself, but also to have some questions. So question answer. And this is for the Belgian patients. for the Latvian patients.
Bonjour, moi, Sophie Champagne. Ce que j'ai le moins apprécié, c'était le questionnaire. Je le trouvais fort long. Parfois, les questions n'étaient pas toujours fort claires. Et notamment, moi, j'avais des questions posées dans une autre langue. Donc, je ne savais pas du tout traduire. Donc, voilà. Moi, c'était plutôt le questionnaire qui me posait un peu problème. Et c'était répétitif.
OK.
Il faudrait peut-être le moduler en fonction des réponses qu'on lui donne. Avoir d'autres questions la fois d'après, quoi. Parce que chaque fois répondre aux mêmes questions.
Okay. So, yeah, for Mrs. Champagne, so for her, the most difficult thing, and perhaps, she was struggling with questionnaires because they were too long, not clear, and sometimes they got the questionnaire in another language. So a technical problem that was recurrent in addition. So they think that the questionnaire should be adapted to the answer that they got, and this was not the case. So this is something interesting.
Yeah, altogether it means this is co-creation process. We get your opinion, like in other workshops, and then we update the app according to it.
Yeah, in my case, maybe slow functioning sometimes, especially in recording diaries, very time requiring, and I'm often in a rush, and sometimes I just started to do something in the app and I realized that it takes too much time. I put it away for later when I will have more time, and sometimes I forgot about it. That was maybe a little bit problematic. Also, the aspect that the application was on the other phone, that I couldn't install it on my own phone, maybe it would help me to use it more often, like every day. If it would be on the phone which I use daily, then I would remember about it better. And also, maybe some textual and translation issues could be also the aspect, because in some questionnaires, for example, it wasn't really clear to understand if 1 is good or 10 is good, and how should I evaluate if I want to say that it's good. I wasn't sure if putting 1 or 10, I would say that. These are my notes.
Vakarus man ir tikai vienīgais, kā uztrauca. Vakarus jāsūta dati, nosēžās pulksteņa baterijas, nav spēka gaidīt, kad uzlidotājs. Tas vienīgais.
Victoria adds the aspect that in the evening, when she has to transfer data from the bracelet to phone, the bracelet battery gets empty and she has no energy to wait while it charges again. That's the only thing what was uncomfortable for her.
Thank you.
I am sorry that none of the patients from Spain could came, but I feel that the regrets are the same. We have the same complaints: the bracelet, the video recording, the questionnaires that sometimes were in another language and were repetitive. I feel it's the same for all countries. Maybe for finishing, the last question will be: how would you describe your perfect mHealth app? If you have to design it, or I don't know, which tools will have?
Donc, selon vous, quelle serait la meilleure application en santé pour vous? Qu'est-ce qu'elle devrait comprendre, en fait? Qu'est-ce qui lui manque à Persist, ou qu'est-ce que vous changerez de Persist?
Moi, je trouve que c'est la mesure au niveau des paramètres qui n'était pas toujours très réaliste, notamment au niveau de la pression artérielle, et de temps en temps, enfin voilà, c'est surtout au niveau de la fiabilité de la montre et de la mesure, parce que ça peut donner un faux sentiment de sécurité. Moi, la montre, elle était beaucoup plus optimiste que la réalité. Et donc, j'ai dû effectivement apprendre à faire plus d'un, plus deux.
So where Persist failed was in the watch, because the smartwatch was giving wrong parameters that were extremely optimistic, and sometimes, for instance, for Mrs. Martin, she had to adapt it to these new parameters that were not the real one. So to understand the smartwatch, but because she's a nurse, she could do it. Yeah.
Oui, mais je crois que vous aviez expliqué qu'en fait, c'était le suivi, c'était la moyenne sur le temps qui comptait et pas tellement les variations. Oui, oui, mais d'accord, mais bon, quand on connaît... Oui. Et moi, ce que j'améliorerais, moi, c'était le suivi du sommeil, parce que c'était un des piliers pour une meilleure santé, donc il faudrait plus... Ici, on a le sommeil court et le sommeil profond, mais il faudrait voir si on ne fait pas des apnées du sommeil ou des nuits qui sont entrecoupées, parce qu'ici, on n'a que 2 données, mais ce n'est pas vraiment un suivi complet.
Okay, so another point is the sleep. So the data of the sleep were only the deep sleep and the light sleep, I think, and they wanted to know a little bit more in detail how the sleep was, if there were any apnea during the night or another issue. So to have a big view of the sleep.
Yeah, in the case of smart bracelet, we chose that one that was really affordable to all of the patients. So that probably made us some problems. That's why, because of the sleep data and charging and etc. So if we manage to do that, this app can be on whatever phone and in whatever transferring the data from whatever smart bracelet that works better, then this will be better data. Yeah.
Donc, Dina dit qu'au fait, étant donné qu'on devait démontrer que ceci était accessible à tout citoyen européen, on a dû utiliser une montre qui n'était peut-être pas la meilleure sur le marché, et ceci explique que les données n'étaient peut-être pas fiables et qu'on n'avait pas plus de détails du sommeil et d'autres paramètres.
Yeah, I would add that for me, some kind of analytical information about the progress or risk factors or some summary about my current state would be useful. And also maybe some warnings if there are signs that I should consult doctor or do some tests would be useful as well. And if we are dreaming here about the ideal application, since my case is colorectal cancer, then the biggest challenge, my daily biggest challenge is food, eating, and maybe some advices about the diary, about the things which I can eat or which I definitely shouldn't eat would be very useful. And if I could make my own food diary there or add some notes about that, I would remind, we all know those little substances with numbers and E letters in front, that I could somehow put some reminders that this thing is something really bad for me and I should remember it. That would be useful as well if we talk about the ideal application. And of course, yeah, the one which I could use on my own phone, install on every phone, and yeah.
Thank you. That's a good point about diet. Yeah, it's really good.
Priekš lielākās atveseļošanas efektivitātes es personīgi katrai dienai pievienotu jautājumus kā mini anketu ar paredzējumiem un veselīgiem ieradījumiem, kā palīdz nonākt cita pašjūtas līmenī. Piemēram, miegs nemazāk par 8 stundām. Izdarīts vai neizdarīts, vingrošana 10 minūtes, izdarīts vai neizdarīts, pastaiga nemazāk kā 5000 soli, izdarīts vai neizdarīts, pareiza ēšana, kur vienu otru šķīvja ir ar dārzredzēm, izdarīts vai neizdarīts, patikamas mūzikas klausīšanas nemazāk kā 10 minūtes, tas ļoti svarīgi priekš mūsu pašjūtam. Arī izdarīts vai neizdarīts, kaut tā.
Yep. So
I think you can summarize this
Yeah,
that
yeah.
she wants the healthy habit tracking option, like whether I have done the walking, I have eaten healthy, etc. And she can then check, yes, this is done, and just to remind every day every healthy habit she has to do. Yeah.
Thank you, Dina.
Gribu tu vērst uzmanību uz pulksteņa siksniņas kvalitāti, siksniņas lūdz.
Yeah, she also stressed the quality of the bracelet, that it got like it wears often, breaks during the
straps. Yeah, we know this.
Strap.
This was the problem. Yeah, and we exchanged them in that way. Yeah. Yeah, we are running out of the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our clinical partners from Persist, and I would like to thank the patients for coming to Spain. Merci beaucoup pour être en Espagne avec nous. It's time for a break, so we come back in half an hour, more or less. Thank you. Hello again, we are back, and it's now time for our roundtable, focus on patient-centered design, co-creation, patient empowerment, new business model for AI-supported health technology. We welcome Anna Lyubyanova, the moderator from National Patients Organization, Elena Fernandez from University of Minho, Laura López from Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, Gaetano Manzo, from National Institute of Health, Bethesda, USA, and National Library of Medicine, and Sara Valdecela from Ruby Nanomed.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I hope that after we have energized ourselves with some caffeine, we will be really able to have an interactive discussion this afternoon already. Yes. So, welcome back for the roundtable discussion of today's event, dedicated to cancer survivorship empowerment, the importance of patient-centered design and co-creation processes, how can innovation and artificial intelligence change healthcare processes. Let me first start with introducing who is around the table today. My name is Anna Lyubyanova. I will moderate the discussion. I come from the National Patients Organization in Sofia, Bulgaria, which is the only patient organization that has been honored to participate in Project Persist. We have with us today Mrs. Elena Fernandez, who is a visiting professor from the University of Minho. She is currently a principal investigator of the NITIG project, I hope I pronounce it okay, and supervises a PhD student and 5 master students. She has over 30 years of professional experience, having previously worked as technical director of eHealth at Gradient and R&D Center in Spain for almost 8 years. In Portugal, she worked in a consulting company and in 2 professional schools. In addition, she served in the Brazilian Navy Corps of Engineers for 16 years. Yes? Okay, working in research, project management, and maintenance of electronic systems. Currently, her main interests are telecommunication networks and artificial intelligence. We welcome also Mrs. Laura López Pérez, hello, who is a postdoctoral researcher at the Life Supporting Technologies Group of the Polytechnical University of Madrid. Laura is a telecommunication engineer and holds a master's degree on biomedical engineering. Currently, she is doing her PhD on the definition, design, and implementation of a framework to support the adoption of the different data analysis techniques in head and neck cancer research. Since 2016, she started collaborating in BD to Decide Horizon 2020 research project, where she was responsible for the definition, design, and development of analytic tools, and also was part of the technical managing team. She's currently working as operational technical manager in another Horizon project, BD for Quality of Life, and she has also collaborated for the projects Fate, Capable, and Gatekeeper, also funded by Horizon 2020. I welcome as well Gaetano Manzo, a well-known partner in Persist. He is a postdoctoral research fellow at the National Library of Medicine in the National Institutes of Health in the United States. Gaetano holds a computer engineering master's and a PhD in computer sciences. He has worked as a researcher at the University of Applied Sciences in Western Switzerland for more than 6 years. And now since September, he has worked as a postdoctoral researcher at the National Institutes of Health in the United States. And also I welcome Sarah Abal-Desela, hello, who is the Chief Technology Officer of Ruby Nanomed. She's an expert in nanotechnology, biosensing, and microfluidics for healthcare applications. She holds a PhD in nanotechnology and postdoctoral experience at the University of Cambridge in UK and at the International Iberian Nanotechnology Laboratory in Portugal. Sarah has also participated in innovation programs and startup accelerators in the UK, Spain, Portugal, United States, and Japan. She has experience in the industry and has worked in the implementation of high-end technologies with large enterprises such as Bosch, Embraer, and Airbus. Sarah has participated in more than 25 national and international research projects, being a principal investigator or co-principal investigator of 8 of them, including 3 granted by the European Union. As you see, we have very interesting and prominent speakers, so I'm sure the discussion will be very, very interesting. And when talking about cancer survivors empowerment, I will start with our first question, maybe to you, Laura. Are cancer survivors empowered to participate actively in current healthcare models?
Okay. Thanks, Anne, for the introduction. I hope I am listening here. Okay, so I could say that there is a positive trend while involving this patient empowerment within the healthcare models. As we have taken the opportunity to listen also to the cancer participants of Persist, it's valuable to hear, to listen their insights, the perceptions, the active involvement they feel while suffering this disease. It's quite relevant to listen which are the experiences they feel, and those could be valuable information to consider in the healthcare policies, let's say, on the current practice. So it's quite relevant. Also, I just take notes that they mentioned they feel the active participation while participating in the event, and they highlight, for instance, the emotion support. So I want to highlight this active part that they feel while participating and including in the models. In the FAITH project, we have designed several protocols, service and methodologies to make possible to involve the participants within the process to try to give these insights, and we deliver, for instance, an application also to allow them to monitor and to be more to be aware, to have their own control, they say, more for the data. So having also this data collection with their active involvement, we have been also able to read some more details to improve better prediction outcomes for other disease like depression in some of the cases we worked, and this helps to promote personalized medicine. So yes, I think that to sum up, they are being likely involved within the healthcare models, and this is something that the healthcare providers and policymakers should take aware while entering their expectations within the systems, the models. Thanks.
Thank you. And what can be the role of patients in innovative healthcare models? Sarah, if you can elaborate on that. And should these models be reshaped in a way to put more the patients at the center?
Well, so thank you. Actually, that was very clear after we heard them. So the role is extremely important. We are working for them, and we are putting our knowledge, technologies, know-how, and collaboration abilities at their service. So the role is main. Now, it is very, very important that we make them aware of this technology. So I noticed that when there was the design of the clinical study, one of the inclusion criteria is that they can have a basic knowledge or understanding of technology. So this is very important, right? Here we are talking about innovation and so on. So it is very important that we educate them. And I understand that it is very difficult for a clinician. I mean, like, I don't know, I can ask Marcela, that is the one that is here, if a clinician has, I don't know how long to be with a patient. It might be, I suppose, 30 minutes tops. That will depend on the country, that will depend on the healthcare system specifically, but they cannot educate the patients themselves, the oncologists. So it is our role with this type of initiatives that we have to give them these tools so they feel more and more involved, more and more aware of novel technologies. Now we have a great opportunity because, we have the internet, the communication now is super fast. They are exposed to social networks, so we can spread the word in that way. Like LinkedIn is great for us, but maybe we should, try to find other tools that are more accessible for them. But I think that, we are doing great because at the end of the day, most of us, we are researchers. So we haven't been educated in dissemination and communication and so on, but now more and more we speak about that. The European Commission forces us to also do these things. So I believe that little by little they will be more engaged in the innovation process, hopefully.
Okay. Thank you very much. I would like to ask you, Elena, how can technology support better patients to be more active and take more participation in the innovative healthcare models?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me today. And well, I think that one of the things that technology can help is to improve communication between patients and caregivers. And I'm talking about several caregivers, social workers, and so on. I think that when a person has cancer, and I'm living this situation, not myself, but a close member of my family, things get so complicated. You have so many steps, so much to do. And I think that's the first thing that technology can do for us. The other thing is to empower patients. As other members have just told, we can educate patients using technology, using the internet, using mobile apps, such the one that has been developed in Persist, and all of that. So I think that in another dimension that I think that technology can help a lot is in coordinating all the actions. When a patient has cancer, it has a primary care, specialist, social worker, so many people working around the patient, and this coordination, I think that technology can help a lot.
Okay, thank you. And Gaetano, do you think that technology can be designed in a way to put the patient more in the center? What are the main dimensions and aspects here?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. I think today was really inspiring for all of us listening to the patients. In my mind, I shape a timeline while I was listening to them. I think we have one main issue. It's like motivating patients to use the technology. because what we did in Persist is amazing, but we use kind of smart band and bracelet that were general purpose and try to adapt to a specific situation. So probably one step is to create a technology that is specific for a particular type of disease or particular, let's say, patient care. This is extremely challenging because it will be, let's say, quite time-consuming and quite resourceful. So, for instance, an alternative is what we experience today, like with, I will put the elephant in the room with the ChatGPT, that it's a system that it's not yet ready for the healthcare, let's say, society, because it's not reliable yet, but it allows you to have, for example, an interaction conversation. And we notice today that patients, they really need this. This can be done with the support of a clinician, or can be done with maybe just a chatbot and avatar. And I think the direction that the technology should take is really like to focus on the main goal of the patient, so to listen to the patient, motivate them, and all this, let's say, system be built around for collecting data, but always to support the physical and the mental health care of the patient.
Okay, thank you. And now, turning from the patient to the clinicians, again to you, Elena, how can technology support clinicians and improve the decision-making in clinical practice? And are there any barriers in this regard, and what would they be?
Well, I'm not a clinician, but I think that Persist has brought some innovations. For instance, when a clinician can see the trajectory, the possible trajectories of the patient, and when a clinician can see, for instance, the mood of the patient, and that's, I think it's very important how the patient's feeling, because we are not only, I don't know, the psychological aspect, social aspect. I think that it's important. So I think that all of that, all this information, all those outcomes that can be gathered from the patient, I think they're essential to the clinicians.
Okay, but do the clinicians trust the technology? This is also to everyone around the table. What do you think? What are your observations?
Well, if I can start, maybe. I think that for sure there is a tendency of using these kind of techniques, and we are in the good path to reach this trust for clinicians. But for sure, there are clinicians that can say, okay, I can use AI for decision making to support my decisions and so on, but others say, okay, I don't trust a lot. I think that there are different levels to reach this. It depends with the system design and functionality itself, what AI delivers. There is also how it is delivered in terms of transparency and interpretability. And also on the way the clinicians are trained and the experience they have with the system, this kind of technologies. So I think that while having this interpretability and robustness, could increase the level of trust, for sure, and also including the explainability AI, let's say the future of for transparency and robustness, and also to avoid that within the results we have some bias or this. So, and I think that this is we are in the good way to reach that. For sure, clinicians are the best persons to answer the question, but I think that with my experience working with them, while reaching this transparency, explainability, and interpretability, we are more close to have to support them on trusting the solutions, I think.
I fully agree with Laura, and it is very important what you said about the credibility. And I think that we should also, and now I'm going to push it to my side, right? So we're at Ruby Nanomed, we develop a technology, a chip device in which you put the blood of the cancer patients, and then you get access to the circulating cancer cells, and the number of these circulating cancer cells is a prognostic biomarker. So I think that by looking at this project, it was very clever. We spoke about it during the coffee break, that Elena talked to Lorena, that is the CEO of Ruby, and said, do you want to participate? Because that was a way of adding a objective sensor, and it is something that it can be measured physically. So I believe that if we also provide clinicians ways that they can confirm what AI is telling them with the standard techniques that they are used to, that might be also helpful for them to, little by little, build up on this confidence. So that is what we try in our side. It shouldn't have to be Ruby Nanomed's technology. It can be immunocytochemistry, a traditional one. It can be pathology. It can be genetic mutation identification. It can be any of those. And I think that can help to push this credibility. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you also have opinion on this important question?
Yeah, I can speak by experience because with Ivan we were in charge of the trajectory analysis model, and as you mentioned previously, for the audience, I mean, we collect data and we try to predict the outcomes of one of multiple dimensions, for instance, the staging or the relapse of the cancer. And when you are developing such a tool, the outcome must be reliable. The clinician, the oncologist, whoever will take this information should trust these results. So I think the answer to the question, clinician, they trust or not the system, it's based on the developer, on the data science, and all the people that create this system. We have several options. For instance, in our case, we use a more statistical model to easily explain the results, okay? If a trajectory had a specific slope, why? And we added the markers to see why. But unfortunately, like disease like cancer, they have too many dimensions. What you eat, where are you from, what's your age, and all the combination of the genes and so on. This cannot be tackled just by an analytical system, so the AI is needed here. And the AI is needed, so also as the other colleague were mentioning, the explanation behind those AI. I think we are going in the right direction, but we have to enhance the collaboration and between who is using our results and who is producing these results. So data science with a computer background like me should be more medical, and clinician with the medical background should be more data scientists. This is what I'm trying to say here.
Okay, thank you. Elena, would you like to take?
Well, I have nothing else to add. I think that, well, I completely agree with them. And I think that the AI can, on one side, do tasks that are repetitive, such as, I don't know, analyzing images. And, well, the doctor does not need to be there looking for, I don't know, a lump or another thing in an image. And it can help aggregate lots of data, such as Gaetano has just told us. So that's what I can say.
Okay, thank you. And back to you, Gaetano. What are the barriers for the application of such healthcare models like PERSIST? What do you think?
Yeah, so again, by experience and according to the timeline of the PERSIST project, a huge burden was the heterogeneity of the data. Different hospitals for the same disease, they use a different code system. Aggregate those, understanding that two different codes, they actually mean the same things. it's something that it's really extremely time consuming. And Persist did a good job to, let's say, have different modules to first collect the data, then anonymize, and then try to harmonize that. But this, it took at least 50% of the time just to, let's say, harmonize those data. So if we can speed up this, we will speed up the entire system. You know, like in every other system, you need to understand what's the bottleneck. And the bottleneck here is about the data. Then there is, again, the elephant in the room that if we are going to use AI solutions, AI is based on data-driven and rule-based solution. And nowadays, we are mainly see the data-driven, so based on the data that we collect, what results we can, let's say, produce. But we also, like here before in the previous video and the previous section, that this data can be biased, and so the results can be biased. So there is a huge, let's say, concerns about the quality of data. This can be coming from a particular way to collect data from one hospital that is different from the other, and so on and so on and so on. So wherever we do, we need to be careful, and we need to establish a clear pipeline from the clinician that is collecting the data with the patient to the data scientist that is actually analyzing those data. And this can be really enhanced because nowadays it's a bit, it's more art than science, let's say.
Okay, so data can be a great resource, but can be a limit also. What is your experience, ladies, with data providing resources, but also limitations?
Well, I think that here one thing is that sure it's hard to get this data, but also the quality of the data that is gathered within the different research projects. I in particular, I could say that while working in these data-driven research projects, sometimes gathering data, well, is difficult, but is reachable. But then harmonizing all the data from the different centers to reach to a common place, you know, it's always I could say, the bottleneck of the research to gather better outcomes. I think this is something that we can't skip, so it's relevant to have this harmonized data, this quality of data. Having models like we saw before during the presentation of Persist with FHIR can enhance of having a direct link, and that would help also to reach this quality data for improving the research outcomes, let's say, you can say.
Yes, I mean, all that then from our point of view, that we are more, technologists that work with things in the lab and so on, we also acquire lots and lots of data. And because we are not experts as you guys with data, we have then problems with the storage. We have problems with exchanging this data and sending this data to other partners in a protected way so that they can access to it. I mean, with our microfluidic chip to take the images of these cells, every patient set of images is gigabytes and gigabytes. And so that, imagine that multiplied for hundreds of patients that you have to include in a clinical trial. So, I mean, Gradient has been helping us with that, with analyzing these images, which are huge, but this is, another problem. So I brought here, yes, accessibility, storage, and then of course, all this part of the data protection and exchange. And then we were having a short conversation in the morning with Iñaki, and because I am absolutely agnostic on these things, I know nothing about interoperability, but you have commented on that as well. I guess that another important barrier, but I don't know if this comes in following questions, it is reimbursement, and it is also certification. But I guess that we might not even want to get into that, maybe. So, yeah.
Okay, I wonder if there are any insights or questions from the room. Actually, we should leave some space before we finish the discussion for the audience. Do you have something to ask or to add to what has been said already?
Don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy. not at this stage, obviously. Okay, please feel free to interfere if you feel you would like to add or ask something. Then I go back to the speakers and just a general question to the four of you. Do you think current healthcare models are ready to incorporate artificial intelligence in clinical practice?
Well, it's a very hard question. I must say that I'm not sure. I think that AI has already been incorporated in some. For instance, I think that if it's not, it will be soon, like in for analyzing image, pathologist, and those things. I'm not. I use it to tell my friends who are doctors that, well, we engineers will substitute you, but I don't think it will ever happen. On the other way, now you thought about ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is the one who are teaching students how to program. So this is a revolution. So I think that yes. Well, in some things, I think that yes. On others, I think that will take a little bit more time, so that all those models get a little bit more, well, reliable, and they can be more explainable, so that they can be trusted and incorporated on the clinical practice.
Thank you. Yeah, Gaetano, please go ahead.
Yeah, in my opinion, I mean, I fully agree with Elena, and in my opinion, it's based on the task. So rely just on the outcome of AI and that is the decision, for me, it's wrong. But if we are using this AI system as a supporting tool for the decision, like we did in Persist, so what I'm saying that is at the end of the chain, there is always a person understanding this data and then taking the decision of those results. For me, yes, we are ready, and I think in some, at least where I work, they are already using some AI systems. But to fully leverage AI solution for treatment, for instance, this is, I think, a bit too risky. There are many situations that can be automated, and in those situations, an AI can do even a better job than a human, and this is not critical. So, in my opinion, in those situations, the AI should and must be placed. In other, where the final outcome can be quite tricky, I will always want a person to take the final decision. Okay. Yeah.
Anna, I have a question for Gaetano. So you spoke about patient trajectories, and Alberto explained that this morning, and that is fantastic to be able to predict those. I don't know if Persist, in order to confirm that the prediction of the patient trajectories that Persist has predicted indeed, is it necessary to do a longitudinal monitoring of these patients, right? I don't know if this has happened, if this will happen, and I think that is connected to what you said about using AI to interfere in the treatment, because that, it has many other implications. So I don't know if you think that if there is some way of confirming that the patient trajectory is predicted, then those that become a reality, if then that can be a strong step forward, of if there is something like that already in the clinic or being done. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I will describe you what happened in the development of the trajectory analysis. Since the timeline of Persist was, especially my task was in parallel with other tasks, which one of those was the collection of data. The very beginning of the trajectory analysis model was shaped using retrospective data. retrospective data that they were coming from the PERSIST consortium, but also from the public available. And it's funny because I use some data where actually I am working now, but I didn't know. So we use more than 10,000 colorectal cancer and breast cancer patients from NIH, and we analyze those trajectory. And at the very beginning, again with Ivan, we said, okay, let's shape those trajectory using statistical model than AI models. So like things that we can be sure that they work. And since this timeline was like of 56 years timeline, so like patients from the 1950 and up to now, we were able to train our model on past data and understanding if the current results match the current situation of the patients. This was a way to, let's say, to fine-tune our model. Once we receive the data from the patient, the PERSIST consortium, we start to receive the retrospective data. Then we also train our model using this data. So we were sure that our results were trustworthy because they were working on patients that they were not part of the project, and they now were working also on patients that they were part of the project. And then this was, let's say, this was a lucky shot because when then we discovered that we have like 160 patients as a prospective patients that are currently using the PERSIST architecture. For a data scientist point of view, from a human point of view, we are happy. From a data science point of view, we said this is a really small population. How we can like outcome something with such small data. And we were lucky that previously we did our analysis on the retrospective of PERSIST and the retrospective of data available to the public. And this is something that you can do with the statistical models, and whenever you put a bit of AI inside, you need to be really careful because the data that they collect 50 years ago are not the same data that you are collecting now. And this is extremely time consuming. So that's why, for me, I will push always for AI, but whenever I teach to my students, be careful to use AI because you cannot shoot a fly with a bazooka, which means that you really need to be like sure that the AI is needed. And is needed when your data, like previously you were mentioning, are quality data. Otherwise, you just like project something that is based on some data that are not extremely useful, let's say. I hope I answer your question.
Yeah. Just one thing, Sarah, is that I think you're completely right. This is treatments are changing. And every time, I think that scientists like Gaetano will have to adjust those models. What the trajectories give are probabilities that the patient follow this trajectory, but it doesn't say that the patient will follow this specific trajectory. And yes, you're completely right. I think that as, well, he will receive data, he will update those models based on statistical techniques or even on AI. Yeah, they will have to be updated.
Well, I think my colleagues told everything. I cannot add too much. Just to add something, I think that to be able to reach bringing this AI in the clinical practice and the systems, I think that also there is a need to have more robust clinical evaluation while also involving in randomized clinical trials to provide more robust evidence and then bring it closer to the healthcare systems. Just to add something. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And as our discussion is coming to an end, one maybe last general question to all of you. What lessons can be learned from PERSIST, and what are the main benefits of projects like PERSIST in general? Maybe those two of you who have participated in PERSIST should start first.
That was a low. So actually, I mean, I participated in the writing for the Ruby Nanomeds part with Elena and Nacho and the rest of the people, of course, and then in the kickoff. And then for the first year of the project, I followed a bit. And as I also said to somebody in the coffee break, then I had a blackout for 2 years because then Liliana joined Ruby Nanomed and she took responsibility. So today it was fantastic to see the results. And in the morning, somebody asked Ignacio, how should I present the less negative results? I'm not going to say names, right? And I was like thinking like, oh God, is it too bad? But no, it was fantastic. So I think that, I mean, the most important lessons that we can learn is from the cancer patients, cancer survivors that came here today. And they told us many specific things about the technology, about what they would like, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, because we all have to talk, I'm probably just going to say one which is not related to technology, but it is that PERSIST has been very positive for many of them. I don't know up to which percentage, but I don't mind, because if at least for some of them it was helping to feel better, to feel joy, to at the end of the day have a moment to reflect on how their day was, I think that that's already a win and a lesson learned for us, that it's not always about the best performance of the technology, the best fitted curve, or the highest isolation efficiency for cancer cells, but it's something that goes beyond the technology, I guess.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I mean, it has been, the name of this project is really well placed because 2 years of pandemic, many changes in the organization. We managed to deliver a really quality product that I'm proud of. And there are many lessons that we can learn from this project. But since we are running out of time, and I think we need to really listen to the patients. After all, this roundtable is patient-centered design. So listen to the patient. It's the main takeaway here. And one possible, for example, things to improve is the user experience. So even like the design of a app that has a particular color, a particular user-friendly way to use the app, I think this can make a huge difference, because I mean we experience, so not only in this project but also in other projects, that just like a bug in the app, just a bug of or just the freezing of the smart band can be enough for the patient to quit the study. So this should be prevented as much as possible. It's impossible to be full, like bug-free. This is something that it's impossible. But at least, for example, like postpone the clinical study until that the app is in a really good shape after testing and testing and testing, and also have like a user experience team that before like putting the app in the market or putting the app for the patients, really like stress this app at the limits. This, I think, is the key. And then the last things, as data science, I would like to have like more meetings with the patients to understand really their needs, technical needs, and this can really boost the development of every part of the PERSIST and the other project. But I'm really happy about this project because the architecture of this project, as previously mentioned, can be applied to other type of cancers and also other diseases. So this is really like the follow-up that we can step together.
Thank you very much. And the closing words from Elena and Laura, if you have such, I invite you.
Well, just mention that I completely agree with what you already mentioned. I think that with projects like PERSIST, I have not been involved in PERSIST, but in others like FAITH, for instance, I think that we should learn both aspects. First, if with the technology we have been able to improve this follow-up to participants, this quality of life, without annoying the participants, to learn the experience. And also, even if the technology at the end has some pitfalls or something, we need to gain to extract the experience, the features that future works should address, and yes, and the experience and well, I would say lessons learned, but this is what I was trying to say. But yeah, I think that one thing is technology, and the other is also giving the technology away, the experience and the tangible results as well.
Well, I think that PERSIST is about providing a tool to empower patients and a decision support system to empower professionals. And I think that PERSIST has achieved this goal. And, well, congratulations to all involved in this.
Thank you.
I think your words were an excellent end for our discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your participation, and I suggest that we close the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the roundtable. And now our last speaker to close this wonderful event. He's going to talk about PERSIST added value for clinical practice from the perspective of the European Commission Cancer Beating Plan. I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Marcis Legia, Director of the Institute of Clinical and Preventive Medicine and Professor of the University of Latvia.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I would also like to thank for the possibility and opportunity for being here and sharing my points. And actually, in addition to my positions in the University of Latvia, I have been serving as a board member for the European Cancer Mission Board for a couple of years, and probably my presentation will be mainly originating already from there. So Cancer Mission Board has been really the structure that was established by the European Commission together with other 4 missions. And actually it was designed to put together the key emphasis, but they are also linked to the funding possibilities in parallel to the European Beating Cancer Plan that came up a bit later, but there was really a very good linkage between them. And those were the recommendations from the Cancer Mission Board. Currently it's already, mission is in its implementation stage. But when really our part of the work as an initial Cancer Mission Board was to put together the recommendations to identify really the key areas that require intervention, and also to recommend the path, the way how this could be implemented. And this was ending with recommendations altogether 13 in a line. And I have to say that most of those recommendations were closely linked to large data for cancer care. We can find practically linkage to large data in any of those recommendations, but mainly related to PERSIST project are those 3. First of all, recommendation number 7 is to develop a EU-wide research program and policy to support, to improve the quality of cancer patients and survivors, as well as family members, etc. But indeed, that has been one of the big focuses from the mission, really, to target and to improve the quality of patients and survivors. But furthermore, the next recommendation, number 8, was very closely linked, and this was recommending to create a European Cancer Patient Digital Center, and that is more developed in the other program currently within the EU Beating Cancer Plan. But furthermore, and in particular by considering the huge differences between the countries, was also addressing the cancer health equity between the countries and within the countries as well. And once more, definitely all of those issues could be linked to PERSIST output and results, and could be further developed by considering this. A bit to go more into this particular recommendations related to cancer patients and survivors. Those were the key points really that were addressed by this recommendation. First of all, to understand the holistic needs of those that are the target groups, meaning survivors, first of all. And I think PERSIST was also a great step towards this, really to understand, and what we heard today, also to identify the needs of the cancer patients. Otherwise, maybe some of the applications or some of the services we are considering very useful are not really considered worth at all by this target audience. Then also to create methods and metrics how really the data could be captured and how the aspects related to the quality of life could be assured. And once more, I think this has very direct relation to what PERSIST can offer. Interventions, what would be needed, maybe that is a bit outside the scope of PERSIST, but nevertheless, and how it would be developing further is really developing, and that was another suggestion, to develop a health passport. Initially it was called as a survivorship passport, but thereafter really this terminology disappeared, so it is health passport for cancer patients and cancer survivors at all. And furthermore, since in the title it was the Beating Cancer Plan, Beating Cancer Plan came out a bit later, and it was good synergy with what really the mission has been discussing, so really not to have controversy between those. And once more, what we do have and how the Beating Cancer Plan is identifying particular flagship initiatives, and one of them was really the better life for cancer patients. And here it is suggested to make a cancer survivor smart card to summarize the history, to facilitate the monitoring part. And it has to be mentioned, we have had a lot of discussions and a lot of interactions with cancer patient organizations, including survivors. Actually, we were afraid that maybe cancer patients are not willing to share their data so much as we would like to have them, but it was quite opposite. Patients were willing to share their data for better care. They were eager to do this, and they were claiming and indeed complaining that it was not done to a sufficient level and in a sufficient quality. And once more, that is within the country and across the countries. So I think we are on the way there. And definitely the European Cancer Digital Center could be one of the mechanisms under EU Beating Cancer Plan really to address those. But there are definitely other issues that have to be considered, and everything is really not so positive as we would like to have, and we would really expect this. First of all, maybe we are not touching so much terminology and this term of survivorship. It also has been discussed quite a lot, and probably there is difference between the culture and languages, because patients are saying that in English it sounds very, very okay and acceptable, but when we are trying to translate, at least in our own language in Latvian, that is something terrible. So we are definitely not willing to use this terminology, and this, as I told, it could be very different. But then another aspect would be really whether the patients are willing their health conditions to be monitored so thoroughly. And of course, it would depend on the tools to do this, and it will depend also on the willingness to really keep the personality and privacy with this. So not all of the patients would be interested. And then in the case, and what we heard also today, if it is technically complicated, complicated. 2 telephones whatsoever, breaking technologies, not convenient applications, definitely they are not compliant, and that's also another aspect that we have learned. Another possibility could be passive monitoring, putting sensors everywhere and checking the patients without their active involvement, but then once more, whether the privacy is okay, whether patients feel okay with this, and that's another important issue. And actually there is another very important issue, and that is also stated by the Cancer Mission recommendations, that cancer patients should have the right, so-called right to be forgotten. So they don't want, if they feel and if they are cured, they do not want to hear anything about the cancer, to be monitored. Maybe they are coming or their regular follow-up investigations have ended already. They are not invited. So they don't want to be considered as cancer patients, as we might traditionally call them. I think those are really important aspects to be considered. I have been looking also into the future possibilities, and there are some of the ideas, and I was looking at both the Horizon Europe and in particular the Mission program, and also within the EU for Health program. And Europe's Beating Cancer plan is closely linked to the latter, to the EU for Health program. There are some calls that are out. First of all, mental health in cancer, so could be very indeed attractive and linked to PERSIST as well. Then there are some direct grants to member states authorities, in particular related to the preparatory action to the European Health Data Space, we also learned today. And also then the studies on the quality of life for cancer survivors, and more really calls that are open under the digital program. And actually Digital Europe program is another one that could be addressed with this. Also within cancer mission calls, there are a number of calls that are related to cancer, but this one that I have marked particular, the best practices and tools to improve the quality of life, in this case for childhood cancer patients and survivors. That also could be a very interesting one, but definitely childhood cancer would require probably a bit different approach, but why not? Also similar technologies could be also considered there. Then a couple of other aspects that I wanted briefly to discuss and just give an insight, and maybe that I would expect that could be related to a certain extension of PERSIST. First of all, it's cooperation, and the other aspect is a large data-related aspect. And cooperation mainly to the development that is currently ongoing and very actively ongoing in Europe, that is networking the comprehensive cancer infrastructures, comprehensive cancer centers across the Europe, and creating mission hubs, cancer mission hubs or general mission hubs within the EU countries. And large data, we've heard already today from the Commission representatives on the European data spaces, and in particular on European health data spaces that are closely related to the program that is called GAIA-X, that is currently developing into European health data spaces, and also data collaboratives and on artificial intelligence. I think there are much more experts than me in the field. But just to describe about the comprehensive cancer infrastructures and how this could look like, and Latvia is one of the countries that do not have a comprehensive cancer center for the time being. But indeed, first of all, those are the recommendations. I do not expect you to read, but just to have the impression. And then everybody thinks that it should be Ministry of Health that should be responsible for the implementation. But it's far not only the Ministry of Health. For instance, for the survivors, it would be the Ministry of Welfare. For research, it would be Ministry of Education and Science. Ministry of Economy could be looking at the implementation activities already. So there are many of them But not only them, definitely also then the research organizations, including the universities, the hospitals, surely the patient organizations that are also here. And if we try to bind them, actually, each of those ministries is linked at least to several of the recommendations, and each of the research organizations or hospitals is also linked to a couple of those, to few of those recommendations. And that means that indeed this should be a collaboration within the country and across the borders, and this could be a theoretical model how we would suggest a mission hub to be functioning, but currently there's a European action that will be also addressing the mission hub idea furthermore. Then in respect to the GAIA-X ecosystem and currently European data spaces, as mentioned, there will be a number of projects really going this direction. We have been working together with Microsoft, and we have got a project approved at this GAIA-X program under the healthcare sector that is entitled Caracol, and it is attributable to gastric cancer and precancerous lesions. And how we see that it could be really complex infrastructure by involving either the multiple projects for data inputs, multiple data sources, currently those are demonstrated from Latvia, but also from other countries, and including the multiple clinical entities and research entities that should be using this. Then we do have this operational part with the data collaborative, with data infrastructure, and this could be further developing then to improve healthcare solutions as well. So this could be one of the mechanisms, just an example, that could be used really for the purpose. So this was briefly a brief run through those activities. So thank you for all that have been listening, and really hope that it will be possible to develop also the solutions that were started at Persist within further projects. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Marcis. This is it. The event has arrived to the end. Thank you so much for all of you who has come to Madrid to join us, and thank all of you who has been in the live streaming all the morning. This is it. We persist. Thank you so much.